Okay. All right, everybody. So welcome back. It's been, I think, 3 months or 2 months. And I just wanted to do a quick recap. I know you know all this. Oh, Alan is here. Um, I don't think everybody knows this, but this photo club is brought to you by the town of Fairfax. And this is part of an artist in resident program, and I'm one of three. And as a Fairfax artist in resident, it's my job to bring art to the town. And this was one of my projects besides the Fairfax Art Walk. Those are my two big ones. And I think you all know, I think everybody here knows, we have a Facebook page and a YouTube page. And the YouTube page has most of our past speakers, those that allowed it. And you can get to the YouTube page by typing in Fairfax Photo Club. And or maybe Donald can put that link in the chat for me. I'd be so grateful. And you would find our Facebook page the same way, just Fairfax Photo Club. And you're allowed to post up to, I think, 3 times a day. And that could be 3 albums, or it could just be 3 individual photos. And we also post our photo challenge on the Facebook page. And I'll tell you what that will be later after Nick's presentation. And I wanted to give you all a heads up. We are going to also skip our meeting for December because I think a lot of people will miss it organically. So I don't want to bring a presenter in and have them only have a few people. So we're going to have our next presenter will be Will Toft, and he's here tonight. And I thought I would just let you speak for a minute. Just tell us what you're going to show us next in January.
Yeah.
And
hi everyone. Nice to be here. Yeah, I haven't really formulated the whole talk yet, but it's helpful to sort of look at what's happening now and draw a line through that, like both forward and backward to see sort of how I got here and what my style and my voice is. So I'm in that exercise right now, but I do a fair amount. I do portraits and I do some kind of quirky oddball sports, and I love motion and dancers and people moving and things with wheels and stuff. So um, my work has a lot of when I get the chance to be arty about it, has a lot of motion blur and shutter drag and smeary colors and things like that. So and inside it all are people doing cool things. So that's kind of my favorite work to do. So I'm looking forward to sharing that.
awesome. And that will be January 15th if you want to mark your calendar.
And do you have a website? That's easy
Yeah, it's just my name, willtoft.com.
Okay.
Or it's willtoft on Instagram also. Actually, I have a couple Instagrams because I have feet in several worlds and they sort of collide. So willtoft is just my regular one, and then I've got one called willtoft.moto, which is for my motorcycle racing. That's another thing I do. Photograph it. I used to race, but now I just photograph it. And then for roller derby, everybody has a roller derby name, and mine is Walter White Balance. So you can find me there on Instagram also.
Awesome. Great. That's going to be on the 15th of January. And I wanted to thank Mr. Donald Kinney because he's taken a little bit of the load off of me. He's been doing the Zoom, the monthly MailChimp announcements, and that's taken a lot off my plate. I'm really grateful. And Terry, our field trip master, and I'm going to hand the floor over to Terry.
So we've got a couple of possibilities for field trips. Thinking the either December 6th is one of the target dates, and possibly December 13th. So let me talk about a little bit what we're talking about. One is North Beach, a photo walk. in North Beach. Probably meet at Washington Square Park and around 3:30, and then do some light streams on Columbus of the lights cars streaming into the Sentinel Building, or the Columbus Tower as it's now called, or was called. That's one possibility. And then just typical street photography in the area. Maybe a walk over to Cafe Trieste, things along. There's a lot of motion around that time, around the dinner hour time. So that's one possibility. The second possibility, also a similar timeline on the same day, would be Fisherman's Wharf, and again street photography. This would be more of a kind of about, like I said, about the same time, around 3 o'clock. But then you get into the sunset hour, and if you got a tripod, we could take some light stream work of the Sky Star Ferris wheel. So that's always a lot of fun. I've done it. I did it over at Golden Gate Park, but it's a little tricky. But I think we can get it done. I've done it before, and I'm pretty good at it. And we can work on that. And then a lot of street photography. There's some good reflections in the harbor there with the boats and stuff. And then whatever else comes across our camera lens. The last item is much busier. I don't know how many people have ever done SantaCon, which is on the 13th of December. And that would be a midday walk around, and it's all in Union Square. And if you just want to go out and shoot drunk Santas, they're not all drunk, but it's a lot of fun, particularly for people like myself who spends most of the time doing street portraiture. I actually really enjoy, and they all want their photos taken. So those are three possibilities. And Stephanie, we can try to figure out how we're going to pull this together, which are the key dates. But I'm personally leaning toward the 6th, and possibly North Beach. But anything could work. So there's some thoughts. If anybody's got any ideas, or has one that interests you more than the other, go let us know. And we've got a little bit of time, but we'd like to get this set up probably within the next 2 weeks, before Thanksgiving, or next week or so. So everyone can get it on their calendar.
Great idea.
If I might, SantaCon is a high point, and there's a bar on Ellis where the drunken Santas can be found.
Yeah.
Just below Union Square.
Yeah.
That's an inside tip there. I personally am dragged that I can't join you all on any of that stuff, because it takes me about 2 hours to get from Inverness to San Francisco. It's not going to happen. But have a ball. Yeah,
well, it'll be fun.
SantaCon sounds really fun.
Yeah. And we could do two. So, we're just, I'm thinking of doing SantaCon anyway. So that is it's just a fun event. I mean, there's nothing better than being in a place and taking pictures of people who actually want their picture taken. So anyway, and North Beach is also fun, particularly if you like some evening photography. But you will need a tripod for the street work, so to speak, the light streams.
I'm in.
Great.
I know there's a couple people right now who have shows. Do you want to announce those? I believe, Martha, you have something coming up?
Well, yes, I have. Thanksgiving weekend, November 28, 29, 30. Upstairs at the Cowgirl Barn in Point Reyes Station. As part of the Point Reyes Open Studios, I'll be having a show from 11 to 5 every day. Prints on metal, calendars, greeting cards, a lot of great food and tchotchkes all around downtown, downstairs in the building. I think there are 16 different artists in the open studios this year, but I'd love to see y'all. Come on down.
Where is it again?
Cowgirl Barn upstairs in Point Reyes Station, November 28, 29, 30, from 11 in the morning to 5 in the afternoon.
Is there a flyer for that? Maybe you could share it in the chat.
I've put it on our Facebook page a couple times. Let me see if I can get it into the chat here.
Great. Okay.
See if I can achieve that.
Does anybody else have a show coming up or anything else they want to share? Judy.
I'm going to be in the Corte Madera has the
Man whom Jeopardy fans know well.
Harrison. Who's Barinholtz? It is like Barinholtz. Americana too. First illuminated in 1791, this historic lighthouse is the oldest in Maine and one of the most photographed in America. Blank.
What's the novel?
No. Harrison Akara. The Portland Head Light.
That screwed Harrison. He's now going to have to compete.
Hang on. I'm going to mute everybody, and then as you speak, unmute yourself. There we go. So go ahead, Judy, unmute yourself and tell us. Unmute yourself, Judy. Do you know how, Judy, to unmute?
I did.
Okay.
Corte Madera Rec Department is having an artist show. There's going to be an opening on December 6th, and it's going to go through December 20th. And I have 2 photos in the show.
Awesome. Awesome. If you have a flyer, Judy, why don't you put it in the chat?
I will figure out how to do that.
Or just put the information. Just type it in there.
Okay.
All right. So,
I have something to
great.
mention. The Bartolini Gallery at the Civic Center is going to have a show that is opening, I think, on Monday. And I'll have, I believe, 3 photos in there, or they're hanging out on Monday. Anyway, that will be photos that are shot in Marin. And it is going to be part of, I guess there's the whole big event coming up at the Civic Center for like through January. And so it's part of a bigger event, and they're having a special light show. And anyway, stop by the Civic Center in the next few weeks. I don't have all the details, but basically they're calling it the Holiday Light Spectacular. So I understand that they're going to be doing that through January 4th. The exhibit actually at the Bartolini Gallery may go beyond that date. But there's going to be a lot of holiday fun at the Marin Civic Center. So something to keep in mind.
That light show starts on the 28th, the day after Thanksgiving.
Okay, great.
And I think it starts at dark.
Great. Thank you for that detail. And I'm not sure, I think there's going to be a reception for the photography exhibit, but I don't have the details on that yet.
Well, share that on Facebook. I'm sure that would be something people would be interested in.
Yeah, and it'll be fun to take pictures of that.
Yeah.
Light show thing. It'll be interesting, I'm sure.
All right. Anybody else? I think we're good. Marianne, you have something.
Okay, yes, I'm in a show in San Francisco. It's called The Art of San Francisco, and it's a Greater Bay Area show featuring community artists. And I also work with Drawbridge, which is a expressive arts program for under-resourced kids from all over the Bay Area. Anyway, it's at the Embarcadero 2 building. And there'll be some open visiting hours. It just had the opening last week, and I'll post that on the Facebook page when I get that information. Anyway, it's a fun show. Lots of great art. And I have 3 pieces in it.
Drawbridge is a really good place to give your money to.
Thank you. I thank you so much for saying that. I've been involved with Drawbridge for 28 years, and I'm on the board, and I can't stop supporting the work we do because I see how beneficial it is. Thank you.
Great. Awesome. Anyone else? All right. Okay, so I'm going to introduce our speaker tonight. I think we'll do, we'll mute everybody again, and we'll have Q&A at the end. I think if there's a pressing question, feel free to speak up, but overall, I think we should wait till the end. I'm excited to introduce Nick Fain tonight, and I just stumbled across his work because a friend of mine asked if I knew him. And I went to his website, and you'll see tonight how dramatic and beautiful his work is. I grabbed this quote from his bio that he sent me, and I think it really sums up what he does. This is his quote: "Nature and luck posed innumerable challenges and obstacles to acquiring images in a dramatic setting in perfect light with critical areas and sharp focus. When you snap thousands of frames over many years, a few turn out okay." And I'm going to hand the floor over to Nick.
Thank you. I lived in Marin about 35 years. One of my rules is to always carry a camera. And although I have noticed that occasionally, if you don't have one, amazing things will happen. And I did see 2 rattlesnakes once, and they were in the middle of a romantic dance. It was quite spectacular. And I pulled out my ancient, well, it was a tiny pocket camera at the time. And it said, out of memory. And by the time I got it set up, the male rattlesnake came and chased me away, and I didn't get anything. So yeah, always carry a camera, make sure it works. Stephanie, can we start with the little video I put together? Okay. That made me feel a little more comfortable. Although I will apologize for the music. I tried to put that show together myself, and I don't know enough about animating slideshows in Premiere, and I failed, and a friend put it together, and it wasn't the music I chose, but those are my images. It's a part of a series I was working on of wildlife close portraits. But a few notes I'm going to put in as I go along, and that is when I take close portraits, I'm not standing close to animals. I prefer to really keep my distance and use a long lens. I don't do anything distracting. And thanks to modern technology, you can crop in fairly tight sometimes and still get a lovely portrait. So rule number 1 for me is just, don't interfere and be invisible. Can we start now with the wildlife slideshow? And I'll talk through that. Okay, I will confess that this is one of the few photos that is not from Marin. This is up in Sonoma, and it took a long time to talk them into doing this pose, but they obliged. Very interesting pair, actually. I have one question I would like to ask, and that is, how many people present are experienced wildlife and nature photographers? Is that something can we get hands on that or something?
I'm seeing about 4 people.
Okay, okay. Okay, well, you can just go next. I'm not sure why this one turned out so well. I actually snapped this after sunset, and even the light was blocked by trees. I've taken hundreds, if not thousands, of great horned owl portraits, and I don't know why. This one just seems to work. It's just there's a few things you want to do when you're shooting great horned owls, and one, of course, is to not bother them. This one I have visited a few times. It's a pair, and they're pretty interesting because they do there's some behaviors that are pretty fascinating, at least to me. And one of them is in this particular spot, I'm on a little hill, so I'm kind of at eye level, and every so often the owls at this location will just fly right past your head, over your shoulder, into the hillside, and come back with a mouse that they will eat in front of you. And that's, I don't know, I enjoy that. Okay, next.
Great, hang on.
This trio, I think I snapped this about 3 years ago. There's a location I know where the parents return every year and have they typically have a brood of 3, and it's really pretty magnificent to watch them because they go through an early phase where they are what's I've been told is branching. So they can hop from branch to branch, but they're not really flying. And they are very friendly with each other. It's amazing. There's grooming, there's sort of nibbling and what looks almost like kissing. And then within a week or two, it's no, this is my branch. You can go to that branch, but they're not friends, and then they're gone. They mature pretty quickly. It's pretty spectacular. But getting them together 3 like this took a few visits. Okay, next. This is, I hope you guys are okay with a bit of a sad tale. This spotted owl male is looking down at its last surviving offspring of the season, which was last year. And the owlet had just fallen out of the tree. And dad is looking down, realizing, I'm just not equipped to put owlets back in trees. So I was with a friend, and we called Wild Care, and they sent somebody over. And then a friend of mine who lives nearby showed up and knows these owls pretty well. And Wild Care wanted to take the owlet for rehab, and my friend disagreed. She didn't think that would be a good idea. Wild Care, actually, it was the animal rescue dispatched by Wild Care, suggested that they just leave it there and that the parents would feed it and protect it. And my local friend said, that's just not going to work. They tried that another season, and the owlet didn't make it. So we decided we would try to have the owlet put up into a tree, and we found a tree that we could that the rescue worker could use, and two of us stayed around to just see what happened, and sadly, little guy just fell out of the tree again. We tried one more time, and dad kept bringing fresh meals, wood rats and things. And then the next day I heard that the owlet didn't make it, but that it was actually pretty well covered in parasites. I think that's because owls don't build nests, and they use, I could be wrong if there's any naturalists here. They use squirrels' drays and, squirrel nests, and those can be pretty well covered with parasites. But to me, this picture really speaks. It's just, if you saw the situation, I think you get it. Anyway, next. That is another spotted owlet from the same area another year. Next. This pair is in the same location as the triplets. It may have even been that year. I think actually this was probably this year. I just think that there's something magnificent about owlets. I mean, some of them, like spotted owls, they look like little old men when you see them. They just have these mustaches, and they're very curious. If they're not in a location where there's a lot of people, they don't really have any fear. They really want to know who you are and what you're doing. Next. Believe this was a juvenile red tail. Again, when they're young, they don't have much fear. They develop that over time. They're also raptors and accipiters and all that are really quite beautiful in their first year. They get kind of ragged over time. And I just love looking at the detail of their faces. I never intended to be a bird photographer, but the more you learn and the more you look at them closely, and especially just watching their behavior, if you can observe, magnificent. Next. My backyard. Next. This is nest building, and it is pretty spectacular to watch these pairs. Their nests weigh hundreds of pounds. Two adults, humans, could easily roll out sleeping bags in an eagle's nest and sleep in it. I know a few Bay Area nests, and yeah, it's hard work for them. Next. This is a juvenile bald eagle. How many people here would know that from looking at it? Anybody? They take, I believe it's about 5 years for their heads to turn white. It took me like 60 years. Next. This is a local bird. I believe I may be the only person that knows the location of this nest. And they come back every year. And I try to be very respectful. I make short visits and keep my distance and then take off. Next. Coming in overhead. Same location. Next. Yep. Well, just turn your head. Okay, next. Sorry about that. This was actually probably the inspiration for me, or the impetus to really start getting a little more serious about wildlife. This is actually, it looks like a small great horned owl, but it's mostly because I'm shooting at a low angle looking up. And so that compresses the perspective, and it makes the owl appear smaller. They're actually pretty tall, and then wind was howling, and then the fog blew out the background. But I've had pretty good luck with this. People always seem to like it. I did, and it made me feel good. So this is probably about 15 years old now, and maybe a little bit more, and just kind of kept with it after that. Next, please. Juvenile osprey. This bird was again in the fog. I don't take the backgrounds away. This is how the shot was. So it's pretty heavy fog, and that's why the bird's pretty wet and has the nice little, what looks like a spiky hairdo. Next, please. Just birds in flight. Is anybody interested in knowing anything about photographing birds in flight? Because I could dwell on that for a little bit or move on?
I'm always interested in that. Thank you.
Okay, so if you haven't done it, it's good to have a really long, heavy, expensive lens. There are some cameras that aren't so heavy, aren't so expensive, but you kind of get what you pay for. You want to track them, and you want to snap smoothly and always stay with the motion. Even if you stop shooting, just stay with the motion. I like to shoot very quickly. I will tell you that if you have modern cameras, higher end cameras, you can set them to focus on animals, and it will do its best to photograph their eyes, but some animals will fool you. This is probably before I had that technology, but you get a lot of fails. I mean, you got to kind of roll with this to get it. And the other thing that's nice is when you're using long lenses like this and a modern DSLR, it will typically put the background out of focus. I didn't do anything to this. It's just this is as it was. Okay, next please.
Nick, sorry, quick question on that last photograph. From a focusing standpoint, when you're doing that, are you using like a predictive tracking or anything like that?
I've tried those. It doesn't seem to work very well for me. That one rotates 90 degrees to the left. Yeah, there we go. That's it. I'm sometimes I use that. What I do is I use what's called double back button focusing. So when I depress the shutter, all that does is the exposure, which in some situations I will just set on manual. Then I have two buttons on the back of the camera. One will focus where I have the focus point set, and I can move that from the back of the camera. And then the other button will do animal autofocus. And so typically animal autofocus will fail if the subject's too far away. And like I said, sometimes it gets fooled. It'll focus on a toe instead of the eye. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll sort of pre-focus with my focus button, and maybe I'll even move the focal point a little bit. And then if I'm close enough, I'll use animal autofocus. And if anybody wants to reach out to me through the Facebook group or something like that, I can talk more about this later. I will say that modern technology is pretty magnificent. You still have to do your homework. You definitely have to learn what makes the camera move, and you need to check the camera every time you go out, because sometimes you forget that you set it up for like a time exposure and then you wonder where the bird went. So you got that. Okay, next please.
Can you tell us what camera you're using?
I use a Canon R5. It's just the first generation R5. It's not the second. I think it's pretty magnificent. I'm sure the newer ones are a little better. I couldn't afford the $13,000 Canon 600 millimeters, so I got a very affordable, comparatively affordable Sigma 500, and I use a tele-extender, which gives you the equivalent of 700 millimeter, and it's an f4 lens. But when you put the tele-extender on, then you drop down to f5.6. It's pretty heavy. I mean, I haven't been out as much lately, and I dread hauling that thing again. I think it's almost 10 pounds on the camera, and it's about it's a little. I have to use you have to use an adapter to put the Sigma onto the Canon, and so that puts the weight of the lens way far out, and it's kind of gruesome. But so
do you use a tripod and a gimbal, or do you hand hold?
No, I will carry a tripod sometimes, and I used to use a gimbal, but if I'm in the field, typically I have a carbon monopod, and I have a little loop on my belt, and I'll carry that with me. If there's special need for it, if I know I'm going someplace that requires a tripod, I will do that. Sometimes when I visit the Eagles, I'll use a tripod because I'm farther away. But it's it really depends on how strong you are and what you're trying to achieve. One of the I will give you a tip. So if you're using a tripod, let's say that you're watching a nest and let's say there's a couple of eagles in the nest. Sometimes they'll just sit there and they'll just say to themselves or to each other, let's see how long we can make that guy wait. Because you're waiting for the flyaway. You want to catch some action with beautiful wings, just like this. This is a liftoff. And then other times you just can't hold the thing anymore. So you put it on the tripod, but if you click it into the ball head and the bird flies away, you're not going to get that camera unlocked or off the tripod head in time for anything. So what I do is I have a quick release that goes into the tripod head, and attached to that is a bean bag, is a special bean bag. And you can use those for if you want to put your camera on top of the car and photograph on off the hood or something like that. But the bean bag holds the camera still enough that I can do what I need to do as a still shot. And then when the bird flies or the animal pounces, you can just lift it off quickly. And that's been really effective. Okay, next, please. Another local eagle in flight. Next, please. This is a pelican. I've got however many pelicans, many pelican shots, but they're so graceful. Before I even started photography, I thought, I wouldn't mind being reincarnated as a pelican. But this one, you get the nice reflection, shadow, whatever. This one worked for me. I was actually pretty far away on this one. Next, please. The reason this shot, the wings are cropped like that, the wing tips, is because it flew right over my head. It was so close above me that I couldn't get the whole bird in the shot. I don't usually title or anything, but if I had a working caption for this, it would be flying lessons. And that's a little unfortunate trout that just got snagged there. Next, please. More trout. How many of you have spent time around Lake Lagunitas and Bontempi? Anybody? If you've seen eagles there, eagles are known to be, especially in Alaska, they're great fish birds. They can just, if you go online, you'll see an entire day of eagles snatching huge salmon from rivers and all that. But for some reason at Bontempi and Lagunitas, the eagles will come around once in a while, and I've never seen one catch a fish, but they are larcenists. They will come in and they will steal the fish from the local ospreys. And that's quite something. And a friend of mine watched a robbery in progress where the eagle took the trout from the osprey, and then another osprey showed up, and the two osprey went after the eagle, and they got the fish back. I thought that was pretty magnificent. Next, please. This one's nice. Probably should have thrown a little second shot of this a little tighter. You can see the little tiny fish. And when herons and egrets, whatever they catch, they have this magnificent thing where they'll toss it up in the air so it goes down head first, which is not that big a trick with a small fish like this, but when they flip a gopher up in the air so that it goes down head first, it's quite something to watch. Imagine eating a live fish with no hands. This is, you pay attention to things like this. This is when you really start appreciating wildlife. Just being out there and just watching them do what they do and thinking about how they do it and just, anyway, next, please. Birds in flight. I remember reading years ago about one photographer who said, I won't even bother taking pictures of perched or nested birds. It's got to be birds in flight. And to me, this is they're just magnificent. Next, please. Is anyone familiar with harriers? This is a female harrier. I don't know if there's a nickname for them, but the male harrier, which is gray, is known as the gray ghost, which I just think is an incredibly poetic name. They are magnificent to watch. They're incredibly fast flyers, and they change direction in an instant. It's pretty rare that I get a good, clean, sharp photo like this. They have owl-like faces, which I just mesmerizing beauty of them. And I'm going to give you a quick lesson here. I hope I'm not running over too much. I was out in the field once about a year ago, and there was a harrier in the grass, which I almost never see. I don't know why it was there. I was hoping it wasn't injured. I'm guessing it was probably waiting for something like a mouse to come out of a hole or whatever. And I really wanted to get the lift off. It was beautiful green grass, nice light, beautiful harrier. And I was within decent range. I don't think I've ever seen one on the ground. And I had seen some coyotes, and one was coming towards me, towards my direction, and they were calling each other. They were howling. And I really, really wanted to get the harrier take off. So I pretty much ignored the coyote, and it started coming within range. And then they started calling each other. And I turned around for an instant to see if I could get because coyote howl is one of my favorite shots. And I still don't feel like I have a really good one. And of course, when I turned back around, the harrier was gone. So, if you're on track for something, don't look away, don't do anything, because that will be the moment that you lose it. Next, please. Another harrier in flight. Next, please. I always forget, great white heron, or I get them mixed up with the
Great
egrets. Yeah, great egrets. I get them mixed up with the herons. But anyway, great white egret, exactly. They, if you look at what they do in flight, those necks, tucking that in, tucking the feet together. I mean, to me, this makes you really appreciate nature. And a lesson, I used to be an underwater photographer, and one of my mentors told me, you get out there, don't get too obsessed with taking pictures and getting the best picture you can possibly have. It every so often, just put the camera down and just make sure to look around, watch, pay attention. And then the other thing is, especially if you're new to all this, read about these birds. I have a problem remembering the different birds from one another, and I'm just have a problem with names. But it's really important, I think, to read about their lifestyles. And the other thing is, Marin is quite the nature attraction of all different types of wildlife. So I'm sure everybody here knows. And some of the animals here have very different behaviors from what you may read about in books. So you're really going to have to observe. I'm going to show you something at the end of the slideshow that will surprise you. And it's just, you never know what's going to happen out there. Next, please. I think, yeah, this one's flipping a gopher. Flipping up a gopher to get it in proper head first direction. Next, please. And let's see if I can see this one. I think. Go to the next shot, please. This bird shows up the same place every time. There we go. Look at that. Nothing better than a nice, tasty mouse. Next, please. Local osprey coming in for a landing. I've spent many, many hours watching them from a distance, waiting for typically dad to come back with a fish. And yeah, you can just kind of get lost just watching them do what they do. Next, please. Here is I believe, a juvenile redtail. We were actually doing a little short video, and this bird just showed up. It's young, and so when they're young, they really just don't have fear of humans. And it was just hunting near this rock, and I got a few really magnificent portraits with a kind of a mediocre lens, but you can't see it from this shot. But the leg feathers make these magnificent pantaloons, and it was a really beautiful day watching this little guy come in and then ignore us and then take off. Next, please. I have spent a lot of time photographing bobcats. Recent years, I've put in days and hours, and they're pretty spectacular. I will admit that a lot of the pictures I've taken of them in retrospect are kind of mediocre. And, you learn over time. It really takes a while. You learn, okay, cat's over here, sun's over there, wind is coming up, or maybe it's just fog. I have some rules that I try to, we can advance this, that I try to get good light. It's nice to have side light like this one or backlighting. Light is important, but if you try to get it all in one shot, unless you are a magician, you're going to have some fails, especially where I go. You may get, you wait hours for golden hour, and then the fog rolls in and you don't get it. Other times, it really almost seems like a conspiracy to keep you from getting the shot you really want. And you learn over time how to position yourself, overcome situations like little bits of grass right in front of your subject's eye or something. You have to constantly reevaluate your situation. Maybe you need to move a little bit, but you don't want to spook them, and you do not want to alter their behavior. Next, please. Another nice, tasty gopher. And it's quite something to watch these cats. So this is basically in gopher land, and it is target rich, and this is their food. The bobcats in particular, where I go for these photos, I don't think I've ever seen them get anything else other than gophers. And they'll just wait. Sometimes if it's a nice warm day, they'll see maybe a gopher's head pop up from a gopher hole, and then they'll just wait for it to come up again. And sometimes it never does. Other times, if it's really warm, the cat will just fall asleep. So you're sitting there watching this cat take a cat nap in front of a gopher hole, and that's kind of magic to me. And next, please. This is cats clean themselves. Well, this is after a nice, tasty gopher meal. And next, please. One of my favorite cats. I like this one because it's kind of a moody shot. One of the things about the Bay Area cats, it doesn't really get that cold here. So a lot of people have looked at my cat pictures and think it's just they almost think it's a house cat. The females don't get quite as fluffy around the cheeks as the males do. The males look much more like a wild cat, like you expect a bobcat or a lynx. Their real name is Lynx rufus. But they're both beautiful. The males are a little more elusive. Next, please. There, cat nap. When a cat falls asleep in front of you, you're not bothering it. I got to know a couple of cats in the area that were fairly habituated to people, and but you have to learn to move. You don't move quickly. You don't get too close. You really have to be aware and get some etiquette. I've seen groups of like 5, 6, 7, maybe even 10 people following one of these cats around while they're trying to hunt. Very bad. It's best to be alone, maybe one other person, but it's really best if you're going to be watching predators to just really keep your distance. And you can tell when you're bothering them. They'll just get nervous. Their ears will be back, and they'll try to get away. And if you go after them, it's just not good. When their ears are back, that's a good sign. That means you're too close, you're moving too quickly, or you're doing something wrong. Next, please. Another cat nap.
Oops, sorry.
Look at that. I probably wasn't that far away from this one. I was far enough away. But when they take a nap right in front of you, it's like all is good in the universe. Next, please. This was just a nice portrait. I'm just pretty sure this is a male. See the fluff on the cheeks. It's really got that bobcat look. Next, please. Rotate right. There we go. This was nice because it was where this location, the sun goes down, and the sun is actually going down by a hill in such a way that the warm light is only on the cat's face and the body is actually in the blue light. Next, please. This cat is looking patiently at a gopher hole, and I waited and it finally got one. And but it's just very intent. They get close to the ground, they have a few different positions, and they just flatten themselves. They don't move, the tail doesn't wag, and then bam. If they get lucky, you getting the shot of the leap, or some of us call it the pounce, when they go after that gopher is really fast. It's pretty spectacular. They don't always score, but they often do. I did see one pretty crafty male catch and chomp down 3 gophers in an hour. They'll just go at it all day because their food source kind of dries up after a while in the hot weather. Next, please. Another cat on a road. Next, please. Just more cat portraits. Here's a good example of not a very great picture. I mean, anybody who's a real photographer will see that there's not much going on in the light department. This is early on, and maybe it wasn't even a good light day. This was one of my earlier bobcat pictures, and I would just try for what I could get. This, I'm looking at this on my phone, and it doesn't look too spectacular, but when you blow them up and you have good detail in the fur and the eyes and everything, it's more interesting. But this is, I would look at this and I would say it's pretty much of a fail because of the lighting. It's a nice cat picture, but that's about it. Next, please. Better light shows the strength, the power of this male. Next. Next. There we go. There's the pounce. This is one of the hardest shots to get. They may sit there for 30 seconds. They may sit there for 3 minutes, sometimes for 10. Like I said, they'll take a nap. And then bam, they go. This one's coming towards me. And so if you want to get the shot, you have to anticipate where they're going to be. The best pounce shot I ever got, the cat jumped up so high in the air that it was out of the frame. And I ruined it because I should have just been back farther. This one's pretty good, but it's to try to get it so that the eyes are in focus, because my camera will not focus fast enough to track this animal when it jumps. I mean, it's instantaneous. So you kind of have to pre-focus. You kind of guess where they are. You're probably not going to see where the gopher is. So you kind of, the direction they're going to go. Side to side, when they stay in the plane of focus, that's going to be easier, and you get quite a magnificent shot. This day, I just didn't have an opportunity for anything. Sometimes it's going to happen quickly, so you do the best you can. But coming towards you like this, that's a challenge. You get a good pounce shot that's sharp, and the background's out of focus. That's something to be happy about. Next, please. Another launch, but it's not great. This is one of the hardest shots to get, and this one's, it's okay. It shows you the action, but when you know what a perfect pounce looks like, it's one of those. It's just, to me, it's a goal to try to get this shot where the animal is completely in the air and sharp and with good light. It's a foible, I guess. I don't know. Next, please. Just hunting through the brush. Next, please. I can't see it on my phone. I think the gopher's there. I do have some of these. Yeah, I think the gopher is right there on the left. And this was an amazing sequence. Watching this cat just work this field and occasionally just wait out a gopher. I mean, they can press themselves into the grass so low. It's magnificent. Look at the way the haunches are almost flat. Next, please. There we go. Mission accomplished. Next, please. Dinner time. Next, please. I like this one. This is just, I don't know. It's just the lighting. I guess it was against maybe a foggy sky. Some people don't like to see animals chomping things, but it's just real life. That's what it is. And I got pretty lucky on this one. And usually what they'll do is they'll grab the gopher and look around very nervously because they'll have competitors, especially the coyotes, that will come after them and try to get their meal. So they get pretty scarce pretty quickly once they've gotten one. Next, please. This is the only time I've seen one get a larger prey, and that's jackrabbit. My caption for this one is Bob meets Jack. And there were actually two jackrabbits there. And the cat got this one and then sauntered off into the brush to eat it. And the other rabbit didn't move. I stayed there for a while to see if the cat was going to come back out, which it did not. That rabbit, and I've almost never seen jackrabbits in this area, but I'm pretty sure that the cat knew that they were going to be there because I watched him walk across about half a mile of field, and I think he knew that they would be there. And then the other jackrabbit, it's sad to think, I don't know if it lost its sibling or its mate, but it stayed there frozen for 45 minutes. I actually took off and then came back and passed the area again, and that jackrabbit hadn't moved. I mean, hadn't even moved its head. Next, please. Kitty yawn. Next, please. There we go. There's the gopher. I don't know. I think this is pretty cool. Light's not very good, but sometimes, you sacrifice one thing just for being there. Next, please. And I'm sure all know where these guys are. They go through in their mating season, the males will come out and bugle. In this particular situation, I think this was a day where an interloper came and tried to get to know one of the alpha male's harem. It was amazing to watch that big buck get chased off. Next, please. Rotate right. There's the bugling. You see these big, impressive animals, and it's the sound they make is kind of it's not like you would see something in the movies where you hear this deep bellowing. It's almost a squeak. The same thing with bald eagles. The first time I saw them call, it's much more of a high-pitched squeak. And I realized that in all the movies where I had seen bald eagles in westerns and whatever, they were actually using the call of raptors, because the bald eagle is not what you would expect. Next, please. I like this one. I kind of call him Farmer John. He's got the little bit of grass. Next, please. If you live in Marin, you're not really that impressed with deer, but this is an area where the deer are not really used to seeing people. It's strange. It's just a very remote part of Marin. And sometimes I see really large herds of them out there in these grasslands. And this guy just took off, and I just, when they're 4 points in the air like that, I thought that was kind of cool. One of the things, you may have noticed that the other shot is black and white. I'm actually kind of a black and white freak. I love black and white images, and the choice to me when I look at an image is, whether I'm going to make it black and white, is whether I intended it to be black and white all along, which some things, or does color add to the story, or are you looking at texture, light, and other things like that? Next, please. I believe this one's got a tasty gopher going. Yeah. Next, please. There we go. There's a nice howl. My goal is to, of course, get one on a hilltop with the moon behind. Haven't got that one yet, but I've got one that'll tell the story about that coming up. Next, please. I like this one. Pretty nice light, not a lot of action, but seeing that fur lit up from the rear. This is probably the first time I'd gotten one with good warm rear lighting at golden hour. Next, please. There, coyote pounce. 4 points, 5 points in the air. It's magnificent to see this. And we used to watch a lot of nature documentaries. And if you've ever seen one of those, the better films, sometimes they'll show you the wolves going after mice in the snow, and they actually triangulate with their hearing. And they'll cock their heads from side to side, and they can actually hear a mouse underneath the snow. And it's interesting to watch the coyotes. They'll do the same thing. They'll tip their head from side to side. And I think maybe with the gophers, maybe they're actually hearing the gopher. This is, that's only my observation, but their behavior is remarkably similar to that of wolves that I've only seen in nature documentaries. Next, please. More pouncing. Next. Oh, there we go. Next. My favorite portrait, coyote portrait. I probably should have put a second shot in here with this close. I don't know, maybe you can pinch and make it closer. There's just something about the eyes, when they're looking right at you. And yeah, I feel good about this one. Next, please. That's the same coyote, either a moment before or a moment thereafter, with just the biggest yawn I've ever seen. Next, please.
That's the last image.
Okay, can we go? Actually, I meant to show that the landscapes first, but it's fine. If we can just go through those quickly, because they give a little geographic perspective. And then, hope I'm not running over. Leave some time for Q&A if there is any. How are we doing on time?
I think you started at 7:20-ish, and it's 8:10 right now.
Typically when I show this one, I ask people if they know where it is, but everybody's muted. So I'll just tell you, this is Mount Diablo from Marin at sunrise. And typically I don't shoot, well, at the time I didn't shoot landscapes with a telephoto, but it's surprising how well this one turned out. It's been pretty popular and I like it. So it's on the wall right behind me. Next, please. Just a lovely Bay Area sunset. Next. Shooting in fog can often be a challenge. Certainly is rewarding when you get it right. This is one of those things where you really have to think about what you're doing. You have to plan. You have to change your settings all the time. There's a lot of things that can go wrong. The fog can be recalcitrant. Sometimes it'll do what you expect, and other times, you'll look up and it's all gone. And it is magnificent. Unfortunately, it's getting pretty popular, with the internet. I used to go to some fog areas on West Ham and be me and maybe another photographer or two, whatever. And now be lucky if you can find parking. Next, please. And again, with Marin, as you know, if you live here, most of the time in the summer, it's a boring blue sky. And right now is cloud season, and it's pretty spectacular. And I love photographing our little private mountain here, our little local mountain with atmospherics. And next, please. This is, I'll just tell you, this should be bigger actually, but this is the way it turned out here. This is what I call it is a tamarama. So this is a panorama shot. And so what I do is I put the camera on the tripod and I decide which direction I'm going to go, make sure it's really level. And then what I do is I start from the left or the right and I take 3 to 5 exposures. Then I rotate the camera so that there's about a 20% overlap from the previous shot. And I do it all as quickly as possible, especially if the clouds are moving quickly. And so this was probably, I don't know, maybe 30 shots. And what's pretty cool about that is when you're done, in this particular case, this isn't even my more modern camera, you wind up with a 2 gigabyte file, or you can. So I've printed this 8 feet wide. This is actually cropped version. It actually goes a lot wider than this, 8 feet wide and super high detail. So it's something to learn about and practice. Panoramas, they've been doing it since the 1800s, and there's just ways to make it better. To me, this view with the clouds is everything. You know, I love Mount Tam, been up there probably more than 1,000 times, but seeing it with the clouds is really something else. Next, please. I think that's the same shot. Stephanie, are you there?
Yeah, hang on.
Okay.
It's not cooperating. I don't know why.
Uh-oh. Maybe it's because you zoomed it or something.
Oh, maybe that's it. Let's see. Single page.
Hey, it's just like nature. Sometimes it just doesn't cooperate.
Huh. Let's see. I'm gonna skip out and come back in. If that helps.
Yeah, there's a couple of photos I put in there as lessons.
Not sure why it's giving me problems. Bear with me.
Well, while you're doing that, I'll just talk a little bit about some of the things I've learned. I'm a lot self-taught on a lot of this stuff. I have looked online, and I definitely talked to other photographers. Some of them are, they play their cards pretty close, and they don't want to tell you. Others will share. But it's really, really important to pay attention, look at your results carefully, think about what works, what doesn't work. Depends. It's can be pretty different when you're shooting landscapes versus wildlife, but you really it's important to me to be critical. I mean, I look at every photo, and typically what I see, if I'm really lucky, I'll see, oh, that's pretty good, but I see just like these fatal flaws everywhere in the image. It's just what it is, I don't know, maybe that's the end. Okay. But constantly be reevaluating what you've done and what you can do better, which we have a street photographer here, and you don't get a second chance with people in the street. So it is best to know what you're doing and be able to capture it at the moment. And that's the difference between when you start and when you've been at it for half a lifetime or whatever.
I'm assuming you can see the next image, yes?
I don't remember what's next. I put these together quickly. I mean, maybe that's the end of it. There's definitely should be more.
Do you see them? You can't see it?
I only see the one. No, I only see the Tamarama. Oh, there we go. That's actually the background that I'm using today. I'll just tell you that this was slight time exposure, Fog River illuminated solely by moonlight. Can we close in a little bit? They should be more of a full frame thing. I thought I set them up that way, but I guess maybe it's just not working. There we go. That's it. Now we're talking. Yeah, little time exposure, but this was not sunset. This is probably, I don't know, 9 o'clock, 9:30. Next, please.
Oh, shit. Why is this doing this?
Well, if it keeps misbehaving, we can oh, there we go. I was actually out waiting for the comet for this shot, and then a lot of people love the full moon, but when you get the little was a new moon like this, it's right over the sunset. It's a whole different thing. Next, please.
Is this big enough?
It'd be nice to have them bigger, yeah, because there should be pretty good detail in every one of these.
For some reason, they're not as big as they were.
Yeah, I don't know what happens. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not an expert in this, but they should be filling the screen. Be nice if you could go full screen.
There we go.
Yeah, okay. Once again, it's all about atmosphere. I actually went back a few months ago to try to get this shot and wasn't even close. Next, please. One of my favorite areas. Next, please. Yeah, these are all really good examples of how atmospherics really make the shot. I mean, some people don't like fog because it's no longer a sunny day. I love detailed fog like this, low hanging fog. Next, please. This is part of a series I'm kind of slowly working on, which is, at least in my mind, parts of Marin. Can you zoom in a little more? Can we get that a little more full frame? Parts of Marin that look the same now as they did possibly 100, 150 years ago. Some of you will probably recognize this location. Okay, next, please.
Doesn't like it when we do this.
Well, this one's a vertical. So here's another great example of what would be pretty much a boring shot without the atmospherics. And I knew that that day, which was kind of like it was yesterday, would be a great shot for this location. If we can zoom in, it would be great because it's kind of important to be able to see it as much as you can. There we go. This is an old ranch. That building is actually from about 1870. Got 6 generations of this family. And I don't know, somehow it's not, at least on my phone, I can't see it closely enough, but right next to the house is a white horse. And it was definitely rewarding to go there that day. And actually I went there knowing that the clouds would be good. When I got there, they really weren't behaving as hoped. And I started to pack up, and all of a sudden, boom, it got good again. Took all the gear out, and I got this one, which I don't know, I just like it. Thank you. Next.
Sorry, every time we increase the size, it doesn't want to move. There we
Yeah,
go.
sorry. No.
Will you say where the locations are when we see these?
Sometimes. I'll just say this is heading towards West Marin. You've probably driven by it many times. This is China Camp. You may be aware of lenticular clouds, which are, I don't know, I think lenticular clouds are particularly poetic. And, you know, sometimes you just get luckier than you deserve to be. There just happened to be one person, see on that hillside between those 2 trees, just sitting up there. Sorry about the size. I don't know. Maybe others are looking at this on a computer. If you're on a computer, you can probably see it pretty well. I'm just looking at my phone, so it looks pretty small, but pretty good detail. Okay, next. More China, more China Camp. This is right around sunrise. Next, please. This is actually one of the few that's not Marin. This is out of Diablo. And it's a fairly old photo, but I mean, getting a lone tree on a hilltop like that is, I mean, I've been trying to sort of duplicate this shot in Marin in the past couple of years. Haven't gotten close. Next, please. A little more detail from a slightly different angle, same approximate location. Next, please. This is an aerial. And what can I say? I thought this would make a good shot. Kind of nice. Next.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to use the thumbnails to turn it.
How did you get the aerial shot?
I did use a drone on that one, my 400-foot tripod. I'm not really a big fan of drones. I mean, I like using them. A lot of places, a lot of Marin it's not legal. And I definitely don't like drones being flown by people who don't know what they're doing or when anybody else is around. We were completely alone here, and I knew I couldn't get the shot any other way. And that's my girlfriend, and she's gone now. And so I like this shot. We didn't bother anybody, and I like it. Next, please. Another aerial from across the bay. Next, please. Next, please.
Are you all seeing these the right size?
Yes, they're much better.
They're bigger than my screen, though.
Yes.
All right, let me go smaller. Gosh, I can't get it right. Is that better?
Yes, perfect.
Okay. You know, this is a very straightforward scene. It's just, you know, I don't know how many landscape photographers there are out here. I mean, I like to think I'm getting better at it. and some are fairly modest shots. I do know some people that are very big into the big drama. A good friend and associate is mostly into atmospherics and um, stars and Milky Way and all that stuff. And some of those can be quite beautiful, but I noticed that some people, I don't know, that some landscapes just seem to be almost contrived, because you can go online now and you can find the perfect, the time and place and location and even your position to put like the moonrise on top of the Trans Am building or whatever you want to do. But sometimes I just like just snapping a shot where you are. You just find a nice little place. You think, yeah, that's pretty nice, and you go around golden hour, and you're probably going to get something. And I don't know. This is fairly straightforward. Just makes me feel good to snap something like this. Next, please.
I had a question about that one, if I have a minute.
Sure.
Where's the grayscale coming for? Is it a gray day, or are you setting the grayscale on the camera, or are you post-processing in Lightroom or Photoshop?
When I go to black and white, I post process in Photoshop, and I try not to manipulate very much. I mean, my day job used to be photo retoucher, and when you're doing commercial work, anything goes. You just want to get there, unless you're doing editorial or something like that. With my nature and wildlife, I do very little manipulation. I'm not going to walk around with a film camera anymore. Just ain't going to do it. And so I will take a color shot, and very often I know going in that I'm going to be doing it for black and white, and that can make a difference. This is pretty straightforward. Probably didn't do much of anything to this one except get rid of the color. Next, please. Oh, does that answer your question? Is that what you want to know? Or?
Yeah, that's part of it. I'm just wondering, how much do you fiddle with the settings on the camera as opposed to doing post-processing? So are you kind of in automatic, or are you
never
really dialing in with are you framing everything with like 20 different shots where you change one thing, or what?
No, not too much. I try to be pretty minimal about that and not go crazy with it. Depends on the situation. One of the things if you go out at golden hour, the light's pretty even. But in Marin, especially if you're at all during the day, we have fairly dark trees, and very often we don't have much in the way of atmospherics. There's not much. So I will often do like a few bracketed shots. I really do try to get it in one shot, but I try to definitely not manipulate it very much. No, I never shoot automatic. In fact, typically if I'm shooting landscapes like this, I will just set it on manual, and I will evaluate the scene. If I can do it in one shot, that's great. And other times, if you're really trying to get the sky, but you got a bunch of dark clouds, you're not going to get that. You're going to get, either the trees are going to be just a mass of black, and the clouds will look good, or the sky will be blown out, and the trees will be exposed properly. So you probably do have to bracket. But now, if the wind's blowing, bracketing can be a challenge. If anything's moving, then bracketing is a different thing. So you really have to think about it. That's why it's really important to learn what you're doing. And I've been doing this a few years, but I still have a long way to go. There's always a better way to do things, and other people just want to take a shot. And so you kind of have to think about what you want to do. And I think it's better to learn as much as you can, and then you can break the rules if you know them and all that stuff. But and then you can choose how serious you want to be. I mean, I will tell you that one of the best photos I've ever seen was a shot that a friend of mine took with a really cheap phone camera years ago. And it is a picture of, you can see him, he's on his road bike. He's on a road, it's up on Ridgecrest, I think. And he's standing by the side of the road. He's casting a shadow, and in the shadow, only a few feet away, is a great big bobcat walking right past him, right into his shadow. And you can see the shadow of him taking the picture of the cat with his phone. And it's not a great exposure. Light's not very good. But it's just so dramatic who cares about anything else? And that's the thing, you look at a photo for different reasons. And I told him, actually, I suggested that he enter the Wildcare photo contest, and he won his category with that phone shot because it was so magnificent. Okay, next, please. Yeah, okay, here's the black and white version of the same shot. So then we go back and forth just once, twice, and you can evaluate and decide whether, what appeals to you. You like black and white or you like the color? Oh, there we go. Wonderful. Okay, next, please. Oh, this is a friend. This was a shot I did for a photo competition, which, by the way, I'm guessing that many of you participate in this. I love a photo contest with a theme. And a friend of mine obliged me by going out there to this ruin, and a really, really cold day. And she's out there in that little tiny dress. And it's, I don't know, it was a pleasure. This is a single shot, no bracketing because she's moving. And I just did the best I could and, try to make it work. Next, please. Well, here we have another set of ruins. There's, as you probably know, there's not many ruins in Marin. And next, please. Fairly straightforward shot, one of my favorite areas. This is another one where, I don't know, it's hard to know. I like it black and white, but it was a nice sunset, so the color version was nice too. Next, please. And this to me, there was no reason to keep this in color. I was just up on a hill looking out over an inlet, and this guy was, I think he was taking a picture of something in the water there. And this is, I don't know, it just got lucky. It was kind of, you would think it was almost a posed photo, but it wasn't. Next, please. Same area. Next. And this is something I rarely do, which was to use my big telephoto for landscape shots. So I probably had the 500 on for this. And what's kind of nice is here's just the top of Tam, which is normally, you've seen it, 10,000 times if you've lived here all your life or whatever, you barely look at it. But, with the atmospherics, with the fog just kind of parting like that, and then it almost makes it look like I'm at eye level, which I wasn't. I was on the ground, but I was pretty far away using the 500. Next, please.
You want them side by side?
No. Just the next. Next. There we go. Nice old growth redwood. I'm actually groveling in the dirt to take this picture, lying on my back, looking up. It is a pretty big tree, though. Next, please. Once again, these are some lovely hills. They're always lovely, but with the clouds, that's what makes the shot to me. I mean, it is good lighting, but without the clouds, it just wouldn't be that much. Next. Another favorite spot. Next. Sunrise. Next. And it's a lovely location, but I love the fact that this is called Rat Island, which I'm sure many of you know, Rat Island. And there was a guy, I went there a few times at that month to get some sunrise shots, because sometimes it just wouldn't behave. You go out there expecting a nice sunrise and you get nothing but fog. And there was a guy who I believe was living on a sailboat, and he'd spend the night in the sailboat, and then he would try to get ashore in the morning, and he would actually literally have to drag the dinghy through the mud. And I have some shots of that. It was really something to watch him do that. It was just like a lesson in futility. Next, please. Okay, now here is a lesson photo. This is actually taken with my phone. Now, I was out in Point Reyes, and if you've seen the elk out there and photographed them, Nowadays, they're really all over. There's more preserves, and I believe that they've opened it up. They're going to shut down all the ranches, and the elk will, just going to roam. I wonder what's going to happen in situations where the elk can come out in the roadway, because that might be something else. So I'm out there that day and getting a beautiful red sunset. And very often at the season that I like to be in Point Reyes, you may not get sunset because the fog will roll in. So I had seen some elk right by the side of the road, and getting them. This is a situation where you can get very close to them because they are close to the road. You're not going overland to and bothering them, and they're used to seeing cars go by. So I pull over, and there's beautiful mature male with magnificent antlers, and I stuck around for a little while, and I could see that we're getting some color, but I also needed to get back. And so I just took off, and a little voice said, "Hey, why don't you just be patient and stay here a bit longer and see if some color creeps in?" And the other voice said, "No, I got to get back." And so I drive another 5 or 10 minutes, and all of a sudden this happens. I turn around, I look, the sky is on fire. And if I had stayed there and been a little bit more patient, I would have gotten a silhouette of this magnificent elk with a bright red, fiery sky. So this is an object lesson. Okay, next, please. Just more TAM action. Next, please. If you've spent time around Fairfax, you may remember when this truck used to be parked out by Manor with those fabulous cactus. Truck's gone. I'm sure its owner's probably, he's gone to truck heaven too. Next, please. Gotta love windmills. Next, please. And so, okay, here's a good, you guys decide what you like. Next, and then we'll go back. Color. And what's kind of interesting about this shot, I've always loved the fact that these flowers go to the color. There we go. So, you probably all know those flowers are called naked ladies, which I just thought was pretty poetic. And the woman to the right, she's not naked, but guess she is my doctor. And she was sort of I guess she's a runner, and way out in West Marin. And this is a lone tree. It's this magnificent tree all by itself. And every year the naked ladies pop up, and I was going one direction and she was going the other, and I realized it was my doctor. We said hello, and then she walked over the hill, and now I have the lady on one side and the naked ladies on the other. It's just, it's just one of those Marin things. But you guys decide. I don't know, you like the color? I mean, I love the detail of the black and white, and I love the color of the color. So whatever. Next.
That's it.
That's it. Okay. So if there's any Q&A, let me know. Anybody still here?
Yeah.
Still here. It was a great presentation. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. I just
I
kind of
want
winged
to
it.
know when the osprey bring the trout or the fish into the nest, it's flopping around. So how do they kill it?
No, it's not flopping at that point. Actually, you just reminded me of one thing. If people don't all know, osprey are quite magnificent birds. They always carry the fish head first. So it's aerodynamic because you're not going to fly very well if you got a big trout in your talons and it's backwards and the gills are popping open. And I actually saw an eagle snatch a trout from an osprey one day and then carry it sideways. And I'm thinking, not only are you a thief, but you're a sloppy thief. The osprey will take the time to carry that fish head first and fly into the wind. And you bum, you're just gonna just like carry it off like that. No, what they do is they come towards the nest, um, and then they'll circle around a couple of times to let mom know that, and they take turns. So, but in my experience, it's typically the male that goes out and hunts and the female stays by the nest. And so they'll fly around a little bit, and then everybody gets excited. They all start howling. And then whoever's caught the fish will land in a tree and will dress the fish. They'll take off the head. They'll have a few bites for themselves, and then they'll drop the headless fish into the nest. And it's pretty cool.
And I understand that one of the reasons they do that is it makes it easier for the fledglings or the nestlings to digest the fish once the head is gone.
Oh yeah, yeah. They'll gut it. I mean, it's quite something to watch. I mean, osprey are really great parents, and I gotta say, I love eagles because they're beautiful, but they're not good neighbors. I mean, they'll just go to every other nest. They'll take the eggs. They'll take the babies. They're not good neighbors. And the osprey, they go out and they catch fish from far away. They fly home and they feed their young and they don't bother anybody. I did see at one location, I did see an interloper, another osprey come and try to steal Junior's lunch and mom shoot him away. It turned out to be a pretty good shot, but I don't know. I really admire them. I think they're great birds. And they also they will go to different locations in the winter and they will meet back at the nest for nesting season. They go far away from each other and then they're made for life and they'll come back and they'll meet at the nest and they'll have another brood. It's pretty, I don't know. I think that's pretty wonderful.
I have a question. So let's say you've gone out and you're going to do you're planning on photographing, say a bobcat. So you get hunkered down in your spot. Once you've spotted one, do you move or are you afraid you'll scare it away?
Oh, it all depends. I mean, I've got a friend up around the Susanville area, and the most of the wildlife he photographs he never sees. He uses camera traps at night, so he has cameras set up that are motion detecting cameras, and sometimes he'll have a flash attached so he can photograph in the middle of the night. He's so envious of our situation here where we have a lot of bobcats because he almost never sees them. On the other hand, when you're up in the mountains, they do get fluffier and more wildcat looking. It really depends here. I mean, if you encounter a bobcat, because I've seen them for years around Marin. I mean, I've hiked all over the place and it really depends. Some of them just don't care, and others, especially the males, are very skittish. So I will go where I think they're going to be. I mean, I do know some areas where I think it's going to be very likely that I will see them, and it depends. Like the males, like I said, once their ears go back and they start running away, you're doing something wrong. The younger cats and the females, especially some that have grown up with people around them, they may not be bothered, but if you go too close, if you move too quickly, and then definitely I've seen these posses of people, they heard that there's some cats here, and so they go there, and there's like 15 of them, and then another group shows up, and all of a sudden they're overwhelming the animals, and that's just wrong. To me, I just don't like that at all. I will keep my distance, and I will move very slowly, and if I have to walk, if I have to reposition myself, I will do it at a time when it's comfortable for them because they know you're there. You're not gonna, unless you pop out from a hide in the grass, they're gonna know you're there. And it's all about how you carry yourself. So I try not to avoid walking towards them. So if one's walking to the left, if I need to get closer, I will walk at an angle. I will never walk straight towards the animal because they just don't like that. Answer your question?
Yeah.
And I have a question. Are you usually out there like first thing in the morning and late in the day to get those special lighting, or do you go at all times? Or
Well, the problem with dawn is that once dawn is over and you have that magnificent light, then you've got the entire day ahead of you of like really crappy light. And in the summertime, the days are really long. And so what are you going to do all day? I'll get up for sunrise and do that. But it's, and sometimes you really do want to be there for sunrise. And of course, in Marin, it's all about the orientation. So the beauty of Marin is that at dusk, you have magnificent light setting over the ocean. And if you can, the problem with Marin is that it's so vertiginous here. There's so many hills that if you're in sort of the middle of Marin, once you get to golden hour, all that good light is going to be hidden by hills. So you got a West Marin, and you got a very good chance of having beautiful light at the end of the day. And you may get it also at dawn, but you have to be aware of the hills. And then the other problem with Marin is that I have many times I've looked at the sky cams and all that, and it's a beautiful sunny day here in Fairfax, and you load your gear and you check again, and it's clear everywhere you go, and then you start heading west, you get to Alima, you go over the hill, and you look on the other side, and the area you want to go to is the only part of Marin that's socked in with thick, heavy fog. And then sometimes nature will play with you. It'll say, hey, here comes Nick. Hold back. Oh, wait. Okay, he's really far from home now. Now, let him have it with the fog. And then the fog rolls in. And this is when you're trying to photograph animals, So you think, hey, I got it. I'm okay today. And then you get to that last hill and boom, there it is. Although I will tell you, the picture of the bobcat with the jackrabbit was one of those days. And I thought, all right, you drove all the way out here. Just do what you can. And I drive down to my favorite area and there's nothing happening. And I'm actually heading home and I see this bobcat walking along the side of the road very purposefully. And he's on a mission. And I kept a good distance and I didn't bother him. And that's when and I was just about to leave. And that's when he nailed that jackrabbit. It wasn't great light, but it's such an amazing scene. So you really have to kind of play it by ear. And you got to think about what it is you're going to be shooting, why, and where. So I hope that answers that question.
Thank you.
Thank you for your stories. The photos are great, but the explanations, I'm not a wildlife photographer, so, hearing how you explain them and the conditions of the animals is wonderful. I mean, that is just something.
Well, thank you.
I photograph people.
Yeah.
So
you're a street photographer, and that is a completely different discipline.
Yeah.
And I grew up in New York City, and I will say that I wasn't serious about photography at all. But had I taken more pictures when I was young, I would have pictures that are historic. Now I'm 71, and things have really changed. When I was a kid, I grew up in Greenwich Village, and more than once I watched from our window. I watched a guy. Back then you call him a junk man. Literally a horse-drawn cart full of junk that he was either selling or transporting. Horse-drawn cart, And so I really have respect for street photographers. But hey, like wildlife, sometimes you don't want to get too close. I mean, I definitely would not whip out a camera and shoot somebody's portrait in New York City now.
You got to learn how to shoot from the hip.
Exactly. Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
And I have a few really, really great street photos that I took many years ago. I've been here more than half my life now, but I would say probably 90% of the ones that turned out well were dumb luck. And I have great respect for you. And you're faced with a situation where you need to juggle a bunch of factors. How much do you care about light? How much? I mean, I walked out my front door. The last place I lived in New York City, I lived in an industrial neighborhood, and it was the fur district, and so you had all these people who were like cutting furs, making furs. And, it's the garment area, and it's just kind of bland. Everything was gray. Every tree that was on my street had been run over by a garbage truck, and it's probably about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and there's this woman walking down the street, totally naked. And she didn't look crazy. She was nice looking. She didn't look like she slept on the street. I got kind of the feeling that maybe she just had a really bad day with her partner and got booted out or something. And all I had was I was wearing a pair of shorts and a t-shirt. And I thought, do you have anything you can give her in case she wants it? But anyway, that was the scene, and who cares what the lighting is, right? Here's a naked woman walking down a crowded street in New York City. Of course, I didn't have a camera. I mean, you've probably seen some pretty amazing things. I got New York. I could talk twice as long on amazing New York stories. I wish I had cameras for most of them.
She lost the bet.
Could be. I'll never know. She looked like she was a little pissed off. She looked like she was a bit bothered by onlookers, and yeah, it's just I felt bad for her. She certainly wasn't doing that intentionally, and she wasn't trying to make a statement.
Yeah.
Want to share with us like an amazing street scene or happening or something?
There's just all kinds of stuff going. This is San Francisco.
Right.
Yeah.
I hitched out here when I was 17.
Yeah.
And those were pretty interesting times. I stayed in the cheap hotel on Broadway.
What year was that?
71.
Okay, so my first trip out here was in 68.
Oh, that would have been good. Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm 77. Yeah.
You know, I don't go to the city at all very much anymore, but I was in the Haight a couple of days ago, and what a sight. And I took a phone snap of this ancient neon bar sign with the old martini glass on it, and I posted it on Facebook. And all it is this faded sign. You can barely see the name of the bar. It's got the old martini neon. And a buddy of mine knew it. He said, the Haight. And I'm thinking, now there's some memory.
There you go. Yeah.
You know?
Well, thank you. This has really been great.
Yep.
And from somebody who's learning, I've been learning wildlife photography over the last few years. It's inspirational. So appreciate
thank you.
Showing tonight.
Before everybody leaves, I'm going to quickly share our photo challenge and then we will depart. But this is our photo challenge for November and December. Great photos don't just happen, they're created. And so before you jump to pick up your camera, plan your shot, put that plan into action, and then share with us your photo along with a quick comment about the idea or your strategy. Just sort of like what Nick kind of talked to us about today. Do you want to add to that, Nick?
Yeah, actually I would, because every so often I will enter a photo competition. I just did one and I had an idea in my head and I photographed it. I didn't get it quite right the first time and I tried again and I went with a mission. I mean, there was a theme to the competition and I went out, I actually got a model. She's only 8 years old and it's in a scene. And when I was done with that, I thought, it looks pretty posed. It just doesn't, it was intended. Nobody's going to believe that it wasn't posed, but you can definitely go out on a mission. But I love, like, for instance, so I've got the coyote doing the pounce there. Now, when I go into the area where I often go, there's going to be a fairly decent likelihood of bobcats and coyotes, and I know that certain things can happen. And so getting a coyote with a sky behind it like that, doing a good pounce, is something that you may or may not get. So it's kind of planned, it's more like hoped for, but it's like street photography. If you go to a certain area, you're going to see certain types of people, maybe juxtaposed against others. So I love to have, I don't like it when it's too planned. I mean, I used to do commercial work and, I'd have a scene and, with props and costumes and all that. But I love, just taking what you get and doing the best you can with it, with also the intention that maybe you'll see it. Like when I go after the eagles, I know where the nest is going to be. Whether they're going to be there or whether they're going to cooperate, that's a different thing.
All right. I think people are starting to leave us, so I'm going to thank you so much for sharing all your amazing photography with us, Nick.
Thanks.
Great. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.